The reason why a lot of people halt their progress with manifestations is because they start taking action they think they should take, or they're just doing everything under the sun and not only aligned actions.
Welcome to the Mindset, Magic, and Manifestation podcast hosted by me, Michaela J. Get ready to dive into an action-packed, bougie-based, and spiritually guided experience on all things manifesting your next level Lux life. Let's go.
Hey, gorgeous. Welcome back to the Mindset, Magic, and Manifestation podcast with your girl. It is I, the Michaela J, here to teach you how to manifest your next level Lux life. Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Let's get into a little review about my 12-week year. Okay. I have a podcast episode that we did last year. I think it was more beginning of last year. I'll have to find the exact episode number for you. But I talked about 90-day manifestations. And this concept is something that I got from a mentor about setting 90-day goals. And I turned it into, of course, my own MJ Secret Sauce 90-day manifestations. And the concept is setting a 90-day manifestation will really help you stretch out the goal. And it really helps you have more time to continue to build more belief and build more confidence through consistent action, right? Because you have 3 months to achieve this manifestation. Now, why I say it gives you more time is like, this is in comparison to setting a goal to manifest something this week or this month. I used to be a person in the past where I would set like a monthly income goal. And if it didn't manifest, then I like felt like shit. Or if it like got to the end of the month, I would feel this pressure of like, I have to hit this goal. Now I set 90-day manifestations and it helps me relieve some of the pressure. So I did a whole episode about that. But then I read a book in November called The 12-Week Year. And I've talked about it a bunch on the podcast, but it's really the idea of instead of 12 months, you have 12 weeks in your year. I read it in November and I set out to start my year at the beginning of December, which means the end of February was the end of year 1 for MJ. Now I'm in year 2 with the next 12-week cycle with an even bigger goal, using everything that I learned, that I applied, things I didn't do, things I did do to make this one even juicier. So I am so excited. But I wanted to record an episode talking about how I stayed accountable, how it worked for me, did I stick to the action steps, and kind of pulling apart what my results were from applying this 12-week year. Okay. So before we dive into all of the things, I have to ask, have you gotten the instant manifestation reset? I talked about this in Monday's episode. I have a new 3-day audio experience for you. It's free for a limited amount of time. And each day for 3 days, you are getting basically a secret podcast sent to you straight in your email. Day 1 is about why your manifestations have been really inconsistent. Day 2 is about the energy and the science behind manifestation. Hello, quantum physics. And day 3 is all about collapsing time around your goals. And so honestly, the way I like to think about collapsing time around my goals is like, what do I think I could do in a year? And how can I do that in 90 days? That's the collapsing time manifestation vibe we've got going on. Okay. The instant manifestation reset is a way to rewire your mindset for faster and easier manifestations. So make sure that you've signed up for that. All you got to do is put in your name and your email. The link's in the show notes. If you can't find it for whatever reason, just shoot me a message over on Instagram and I'm going to make sure you get your booty in because it is so juicy. So let's talk about my 12-week year. For the 12-week year, you can set one goal, you can set multiple goals that you are focusing on for the 12 weeks. I chose to set one specific goal, and it was an income goal of like an amount of money I wanted to make in 3 months. After all 12 weeks, I made it 80% of the way to my goal, which I would say is pretty fucking epic because you go into the 12-week year making your goal a stretch, but not something that feels impossible, not something that's going to like knock you out where you're like, there's no way this is going to happen. Like, why am I even doing this? Right? Nothing that's going to take you there. So it was already a stretch goal. And then to hit 80% of that, I was like, fuck yes. So one thing that I'm doing for this next 12-week year is I'm making the stretch goal even bigger because my mindset's always, let me kind of like fail forward. I don't really resonate with the concept of failure, but let me fall forward. Let me set a big goal and fall short, but at least I set a big goal rather than something predictable. And then I wouldn't have taken the same batshit crazy action because I would have just taken predictable action and I would have gotten predictable results. So now for my next 12-week year, I'm setting an even bigger goal. Honestly, I'm literally doubling the goal that I did last time because I'm like, cool, if I stretched and hit 80%, if I double that, and I even hit 60% of that, I'm going to be super fucking happy because I'm already going to hit that stretch goal and then some. So one thing that I suggest if you are leaning into a 90-day manifestation, a 12-week year, is stretch yourself. Don't be afraid to fall forward. And this is a success mindset principle that people don't talk about often enough. The most successful people are not afraid to fail because successful people like myself, we don't really subscribe to the idea of failure. Like I said, like failure is kind of a joke to me because anything, if I don't hit my goal, it's not a failure to me. It's, I learned so many lessons. I was reaching this goal. We can see what didn't work, what I would do differently next time. And we keep moving forward. Like there's no failure. I can't even conceptualize that concept anymore. So the most successful people that that you see online, that you see in publications, whatever, we're not afraid to fall on our asses. We're not afraid to make a mistake. We're not afraid to not hit a goal. Like I'm going to go big. And if I hit 80% like I did, I'm totally happy with that because I went big. All right. Now, I want to talk about my process in planning the 12-week year. The book breaks down the whole method, but basically you pick one big goal and then you map out all of the possible tactics you could use to hit that goal. So for me, with an income goal, I listed out all of the different things I could do for work in my business and even outside of my business, other business ventures I could do to move my money manifestations forward, right? So that could include launches, that could include one-off offers, that could include new subscriptions, that could include taking on new one-on-one clients, that could include investment accounts. Like it could include so many things. I literally wrote a list of every single thing I could possibly think of that would move me forward towards that goal. Now, one thing I want to say is everything on that list did not make it in my calendar. Because what I did after that is I chose select tactics that I was going to use to tackle this goal for the year, to tackle this manifestation. I went through my list and I asked myself, this is where we bring in the energy work, the mindset work. Like what out of this list feels the most expansive, the most fun, what feels easy, what feels exciting? Not what's every single possible thing I could do. Let me add it all to my calendar, run my ass into the ground with no energy and no time for socializing and no time for myself and do every single thing under the sun to hit my goal. That's not what I did. I said, hey bitch, what sounds the most fun to you? What sounds exciting? What's something you haven't done in a while that maybe you want to bring back? Like what are these different things that we could do that feel fun?
From Disney, on March 21st, the musical movie event of the year arrives in theaters.
My name is Snow White. Flawless. Exquisite.
Get tickets now.
Waiting on a wish.
Snow White will have you on your feet
I think that's a wonderful idea.
and cheering for more.
I was thinking the same thing.
Experience the magical story.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest one of all?
Snow White.
Disney's Snow White. Only in theaters March 21st. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Tickets on sale now.
Today at T-Mobile, I'm joined by a special co-anchor.
What up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Snoop Double G.
Snoop, where can people go to find great deals?
Head to T-Mobile.com and get 4 iPhone 16s with Apple Intelligence on us, plus 4 lines for $25.
That's quite a deal, Snoop. And when you switch to T-Mobile, you can save versus the other big guys' comparable plans plus streaming.
Respect. We up out of here.
See how you can save on wireless and streaming versus the other big guys at T-Mobile.com/switch. Apple Intelligence requires iOS 18.1 or later.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
The reason why a lot of people halt their progress with manifestations is because they start taking action they think they should take, or they're just doing everything under the sun and not only aligned actions. The actions that you take that are aligned or inspired actions are going to take you so much further. Okay. So I wrote down all of the possible ways, and then I chose select tactics I was going to apply to my goal. So again, not everything made it in the calendar, but at least I have all of the options in front of me. And it's cool because I kept all those options. So now planning my second 12-week year, I can go back through and say, hey, are any of these that didn't make the list before something I want to do now? Or is there anything that made the list that I don't want to do anymore? And you can audit from there. Okay. After I picked my tactics, I mapped out what I would be doing each month. So I did like a little overview. So it was like December, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. January is going to be blah, 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 blah. And February is going to be blah, blah, and maybe blah, right? Like I mapped out a general idea. From there, I literally wrote down every single week what exactly I was going to do. Week 1. Boom, boom, boom. And I did it all in the notes section of my phone in one night. Okay. Planning does not need to take you hours. You don't need a whole week to plan. Get on the fucking treadmill and map out the next 12 weeks. 45 minutes later, you got in a great walk, you got in your steps, and you have a game plan for the next 3 months. Literally, it's that simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Okay. I did it all in the notes section of my phone. So with each of the week's tactics, I did with the little bubble list. That way, when I completed that task for the week, I could check mark it off. All right. With the tasks that I was doing on a weekly basis, I also set non-negotiables that I wanted to be doing daily. Okay. Because I didn't want to make a list of every single day of the next 12 weeks. I wanted to map out what were the main actions for the week, and then what are my daily non-negotiables. So let's say for you, if your 12-week goal has to do with fitness, maybe your daily non-negotiables are 10K steps, a gallon of water, taking your vitamins, right? You'll have a daily non-negotiable list, getting 8 hours of sleep, whatever. But maybe week 1, your action steps are do 3 lifts in the gym, 1 Pilates class, 1 cardio day, right? And then week 2, it's let's do hot yoga, 4 lifts, 2 cardio days, right? So that's where you're going to specify, but you don't need to put the daily things in there every single day and map that out forever and ever and ever when you can just list it at the top. At least that's how I did it. Okay. So all in one night, in a 45-minute session, I mapped out my entire 3 months. From there, I put that shit in the calendar. You already know I'm a Google Calendar girly all of the way. I will live, ride, and die by Google Calendar. Google Calendar, please sponsor me. I love you. I have you color coded. You're amazing. You keep my life together. I even put in driving times. I'm a psycho. Okay. So I put it into my calendar. This was the best thing that I did, because when it comes to creating a plan that's going to span over a couple of months, it is so easy. And I've definitely been at fault for this before, to write down all of your plans and write down all of your ideas in a notebook and literally never look at it ever again. Have you ever done that? Okay. I have done it so many times where it's I made a whole evening and it was a vibe, right? I made a dinner. I had a glass of wine. I spread out my 4 notebooks and had my vision board up. And I spent 4 hours creating the perfect game plan for something, whether it was a fitness routine or a new workflow or whatever it was. And then it didn't go anywhere. It stayed in the notebooks. And you know what else stayed in the notebooks? The fucking results, because then I didn't do anything. So after I mapped all this out, I put it in the calendar in advance. That is one of my best tips for you if you are considering doing something like the 12-week year and even for your 90-day manifestations. What are the action steps you're going to take every single week and put them in the calendar? For me, since this was an income goal and it had a lot to do with my business, it helped me map out exactly what I was going to do in my business for the next 3 months. I was every launch I had was kind of pre-planned, even if I didn't know what it was going to be. So for example, one of the things that was on my list for my 12 weeks was doing a masterclass in February, which was the Wealthy Woman Masterclass, which was hosted inside of my Facebook group. Okay. That I talked about it on the podcast. I didn't know what the masterclass was going to be. I just knew, hey, I'm going to do a masterclass in February that's going to be free inside of my community. And so then as the time came, I also had it planned in the calendar. When was I going to plan? When was I going to write down my ideas? When I was going to make the branding? What was going to be the intention? Like that was planned like 2 weeks before. So like week 12 was the masterclass, but week 10 was planning out the details. So you don't need to know every single specific piece, but you need to think out the process and put it in the calendar. Because I put everything in the calendar, I knew, okay, well, if this masterclass is going to be this last week of February, 2 weeks before that, I probably need to map out the branding and what we're talking about so I can start promoting it and sharing with people that I'm going to be doing something of value, right? And that was something that really, really helped me, because I think the biggest piece of this is about being consistent and actually executing your 12-week plan. This is where people fall off, is they don't execute. For me, I execute like a motherfucker. And since you're here, I know you're like me in the fact, like we crave taking action. Like you show up, you do the work when the work is in front of you. So put that shit in your calendar, okay? Because the best way I stayed accountable, the best way I stayed executing was I would open up my calendar and see what was going on that week. And let me tell you, this is a win for me. I did not change anything in the plan. There wasn't anything that I was like, I'm removing this, I'm changing this, I'm moving this around, like nothing. I fully stuck to the plan. That's one of my biggest tips for this as well. One of my big takeaways for you is stick to the fucking list. This is something I've talked about before. And this is like a new saying in my household. Well, it's been a saying in my household, but like a new core MJ saying, stick to the fucking list. It's so easy to open up the calendar on a Sunday when you're mapping out your week and see that you have X workouts that week or X things to do for work or blah, blah, whatever has got going on. Maybe your 12-week goal is keeping your house clean for 12 weeks. And so 1 week you're like, I have to scrub the oven. And you open that up on Sunday and you're like, I don't want to fucking scrub the oven. What most people do is they delete it. What people who execute at a high level and successful people do is they fucking execute anyways. You have to choose your commitment over your emotions. There were some weeks where I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't feel inspired. I don't feel creative. Don't care. You need to execute. Don't care. You have a job to do. You have a goal to hit. You have these things in the calendar. These are your non-negotiables. You need to show up. Because I truly look at my goals as non-negotiables. I'm like, this is a non-negotiable. This is something we're working on. This is something we're moving towards. This is something we're tackling and we're taking batshit crazy action because every single one of my goals is bigger than the last one. So I have to keep showing up big. And sometimes that's scary. Sometimes that's uncomfortable. Sometimes your subconscious is like, oh, I don't feel like doing this because it's scary. And what if I fail? And blah, blah, blah. And you have to shut that bitch up, basically. Like, and the only way you shut it up is not by being mean to yourself, right? We talked about that on Monday, of like really not adding in negative self-talk to the process. That's not what it's going to do. How we shut up the subconscious is we take action anyways. You don't even have to say anything, right? It's that neutral energy of like, I'm just going to show up and I'm going to take action and I'm going to do what I know I need to do. So the big takeaways from the 12-week year that I have discussed so far is 1, don't be afraid to fall forward. Set really big goals to move yourself forward. And if you fall short, that's okay because you set a huge goal anyways. And it means you still like took yourself further along in the process. Okay. So that. Number 2, you don't need a whole night and 7 hours to plan shit, okay? 45 minutes on the treadmill, let's fucking go. Like, do it all in one session. Don't overcomplicate it, okay? Number 3, put that shit in the calendar because if it's not on the calendar, it's not gonna happen. If it lives in a notebook, that's not a concrete plan. You might have mapped out the whole strategy, but like, when are you executing? When are you doing what parts? It's not all gonna happen in one day unless you have like a whole week to like put something together, right? And that even then, that's spread out over multiple days. So put it in the calendar afterwards. The next thing that I had to adapt and really learn and audit during this process is what was taking up a lot of my time and my energy. Because when you are hyper focused on your goal, anything that's taking up your time, anything that's taking up your energy, that is draining you, that doesn't feel like it's adding to your life, has to fucking go. Because when you are setting this big, audacious goal that is probably a little uncomfortable, everything in your subconscious is going to want to fight against that. That's where we have to lean into, again, choose your commitment over your emotions. When you have things that are draining your energy, it becomes the perfect excuse to not execute. It's like, oh, well, I just hung out with this friend who's super draining and now I'm home and I'm supposed to do this thing for my 12-week year, but I just like literally don't have the energy, right? You have to audit that. For me, it was like almost auditing things draining my energy week by week, but definitely monthly. And so it's like, great, if that friend is draining you, don't hang out with them as much. You can't afford to have your energy drained in that way. You've got big goals that are your responsibility. You've got big goals that are non-negotiables for you. You have to start treating them as such. So I had to take a good look at where was I wasting energy. And one thing that I talked about in the podcast recently was how I realized I had this pattern where I was reaching for distractions a lot. That was my thing. I was like, okay, well, let me distract myself here. Let me distract myself there. And like, well, let me do this. And let me, you know what? I know I'm focused on this right now, but like, let me plan this trip. And it's like, no, I had to snap myself back because I realized where I was losing a lot of energy and a lot of like power and momentum in my day was task switching. So now I've changed my calendar around where it's like I'm batching audios all in one day. I'm batching like videos in one day. I'm batching calls on a certain day, batching things so my brain's not like, okay, let me podcast, and okay, let me write an email, and okay, let me plan this trip, and okay, now I need to do this over here, and okay, let me check in here. Like, task switching was draining so much of my energy. And that was something that I didn't really realize until I was in it, which is an important point in and of itself. Like when you're actually in the process of creating your manifestations, that's when you're going to see the little tweaks you can be making to up-level your life. You're not going to notice these things when you're just doing the same humdrum, regular schmegular shit. When I'm going after a big goal, that's where it becomes apparent where my micro tweaks are that I could be optimizing my life, my energy, and my manifestations. When you're making these tweaks, it's going to become very apparent to you as well of what's working, what's not working, and what's producing results. So this is actually the kind of the best part of the 12-week year for me, because once you're finished, you get to review the entire process and you have your whole game plan in your notes of your phone. So you can look at, okay, I did this that week and I got that done super fast. And I noticed that's when I tweaked my schedule. So I got so much done this week. Oh, and I did this thing over here that actually didn't really work. Why didn't that work, right? So you can look back and have a comprehensive review of what worked and why, what didn't work and why, what was going on during that time. Oftentimes we set a monthly goal and we're just kind of like winging it week by week, day by day. And at the end of the month, like, let's say you don't hit the income goal. You're like, fuck, I either didn't do enough or what I did wasn't good. And you didn't have a comprehensive plan. So you really don't know what to review. And what I noticed and reviewing after the 12-week year is like the weeks that I really like took my time on things and was super thoughtful and like really strategic and really intentionally did things and set things up were the weeks, the months that I was hitting the biggest strides. Anything I was throwing together or I felt like I had added on too much to my plate or I created a denser timeline. Like let's say I was planning a free event and I was doing the branding and the details and the opt-in page and the emails and all of my notes and setting up the Facebook group and doing the promotion all in like 3 hours, like really condensing it and kind of shoving it together as quickly as I could because I had other things going on. That didn't perform as well as the things that I took my time with, I put my energy into. And so now I get to take that into my next 12-week year and think like, okay, great. I don't have to do as much. I can be super intentional and super thoughtful about the things that I am doing. And that's actually going to bring me bigger results. I only know that now because I had a comprehensive plan that I could then go back and review. Which brings me to another point of something that I didn't do throughout this process. that I don't know. I wouldn't say I don't know if it works or doesn't work for me because I didn't do it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do that this time. Is in the book, they recommend every 3 weeks you check in on your goals. Like you have like a little review. And I had written that down of the dates to review, but I just didn't do them because I'm not like a review during the process kind of girl. I'm a review afterwards. And let me tell you why. I believe in sticking to your manifestation all of the way through, like full out in the last minute when you think nothing's going to happen, a miracle can come through. So for me, I don't really resonate with auditing things and reviewing every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, because in my mind, I'm like, well, a miracle could literally happen fucking tomorrow. And here I am sitting down, changing course because I'm just supposed to review at this time. The idea just doesn't really resonate with me. But after I have the whole picture and I've completed the 12 weeks, I can sit down and review and think what worked, what didn't. I will say, I think the review aspect is more for a person that struggles with execution, like for somebody that needs to be held accountable or they don't stay consistent or they're not executing. Like I'm the person that if it's in the calendar, it's getting done. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to get it done. So I don't really need that as much, but the book does suggest it. So maybe this time around, I will do the reviews every 3 weeks. That way I can report back of what I liked and how that worked for me. But I can say that's one thing that I didn't do from the process. Overall, I really enjoyed doing the 12-week year. I liked that I had planned it all in like a 45-minute session, put it in the calendar and executed. When I was like in the midst of it, I literally not once thought about changing the plan. Like I was fully committed. And this is kind of the same mindset I have when I do 75 hard. It's like, I chose to do 75 hard, so I'm doing 75 hard. Like it's not really a challenge. It's not, can I make it all the way through? It's, I decided I'm doing this, so I'm going to do it all the way to the end. So when you're doing something like this, or even 75 hard, it's a perfect example. Like you need to fully be in that commitment mindset.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need. Have coverage options to protect the things you value most. File a claim right on the State Farm mobile app and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was getting frustrated by your forms. Now, Taxes is uploading your forms with a snap, and a TurboTax expert will do your taxes for you. One who's backed by the latest tech, which cross-checks millions of data points for absolute accuracy, all of which makes it easy for you to get the most money back, guaranteed. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
I think this really worked well for me because I love to plan, but I got to plan in a way that was efficient, that was action oriented, that was results driven, and then went into the calendar for me to execute. And I love executing. I love taking action. It just like really hypes me up. Like taking action builds my belief in myself and it builds my belief in my manifestations. And the days that I didn't feel like it, I remind myself, stick to the fucking list. You have to choose your commitment over your current emotional state. You have to choose your desires, your manifestations. These are your non-negotiables. These are your responsibilities. And having that pep talk with myself in a really uplifting way and not in a degrading way of like, you've got this, you can do this, you can show up. I know you don't feel like it today. I know you don't, I know you're tired. I know you're this, I know you're that. I see that. You're kicking ass anyways. Imagine how good you're going to feel when you get these things done on a day that you're super tired, on a day that you don't feel like it, on a travel day. Like when you still execute anyways, it boosts your confidence even more. I'm so excited to do another round of the 12 weeks because again, like if I hit 80% of my goal this time, if I hit 80% on my next goal, like I'm probably going to pee my pants. Like that's going to be actually fucking insane because I literally set an insane goal. And I'm not afraid to fall on my face. I'm not afraid to fall forward. I'd rather fall forward than stay stagnant, wobbling back and forth, you know? And because I'm so committed to seeing things through and seeing the plan through, I know I'm going to get so much closer to that goal. Like maybe I'll end up at 90%. Like who knows? Like truly, who knows? But you have to challenge yourself. You have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be disappointed and to not get what you want and like chase after it. And I guess like not even like chase, but just go after it. Like actually go and do the things. I love the concept of doing 12 weeks rather than the whole year, because the concept the book talks about is that you get this new year, fresh start energy every 3 months. And you also feel a little bit of the heat of like, hey, we're wrapping up on 12 weeks. We got to hit this goal. And I really felt that, you know, at the beginning in December, I had so much momentum. I'm like, new year, everyone's waiting until January. I'm already fucking going, like new year energy, right? And when I was in the middle of it, I'm like, oh shit, I only have 6 weeks left. Like we got to keep it going. And towards the end, I'm like, oh my God, I'm on fire. Like I'm crushing this. And then you're seeing week after week after week, all of the things you're accomplishing. You're like, let's keep going. Let's keep doing this. This feels amazing. I'm executing in a way I've never had before. I'm learning what works for me more than ever before. I'm seeing where things are taking up my time, taking up my energy that I can shift moving forward. Like it keeps that momentum going just because of the duration and how the game plan is created. So, and now that it's March and I'm starting my next year, I'm like, great. Well, everybody's still in 2025. I'm mentally in 2026. Like, let's fucking go, you know? And I love that energy. It keeps things fresh. It keeps you motivated. It keeps you inspired. And it reminds me to like keep my foot on the gas. You know what I mean? So this was more of like a rambly, ranty episode, but I've talked so much about the 12-week year. I wanted to do an episode where I just kind of like brain dumped my thoughts for you on where I ended up with my goal. I hit 80%, which I am so proud of. Next time 100% would be fucking amazing. But honestly, if I don't even hit 100, I don't care because the goal is literally that big, you guys. So I wanted to give you a progress report on the year, what went well, what I didn't do from the book. I didn't do the reviews, and the things that I learned, like the time management, scheduling it in the calendar, so many good lessons and takeaways. If you're listening on Spotify, you can comment on this episode, and I would love to hear what questions you have about the 12-week year or even 90-day manifestations. And if you've ever done a 12-week year or if you're thinking about doing it moving forward, I think it's such a great idea. I think it's such a great way to keep up your energy throughout the year and keep your manifestations super fresh. Okay. Plus, if you want to kind of spring clean your mind with me, make sure you snag the Instant Manifestation Reset, because we'll reset our mindsets and then hop into our next 12-week year. Remember, that's free for a limited time. The link is in the show notes for you for my 3-day audio series on why you're manifesting inconsistently, the science and energetics behind manifestation, and how to collapse time so you can set 12-month goals and accomplish them in 3 months in my version of a 12-week year. Okay. Thanks for listening to me. I'll ramble about my goals and ramble about the 90-day manifestations. I can't wait to hear from you in the comments about if you're doing a 12-week year or what else you want to know. And I will talk to you next week. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to leave a 5-star rate and review. I love hearing your takeaways and wins from the podcast in the review section, so don't forget. Love you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.